Manual transmission versus automatic versus CVT. These are the three types of transmission we're going to talk about today. Let's take a look at some of their benefits and what are some of the drawbacks of choosing between a manual, an automatic, and a CVT transmission. So first of all, let's start here in the Suzuki Swift Sport, which has a manual transmission. So a manual transmission is basically exactly what it says in the name. It is a transmission that is shifted manually with the driver's input. So for example, in this Suzuki Sport Swift, it's a 5-speed transmission. So you've got gear 1, gear 2, gear 3, gear 4, and gear 5. So all those gears have to be manually shifted by me, the driver, every single time. So what are the benefits of using a manual transmission? So the first benefit that you're going to get is fuel efficiency. Manual transmissions tend to be more fuel efficient than their automatic counterparts, but when it comes to CVTs, are more efficient. But that's one benefit that you get from using a manual transmission. And then also you get a more engaging and responsive driving experience. So for those guys who are petrol heads like me and you want a car that is fun to drive and feels sporty, like the Suzuki Swift Sport, you get a manual transmission because of that awesome feeling you get when you're going through all the gears like this, enjoying yourself as the power increases from your car. But another benefit that you get from having a manual transmission car is the low cost of production, which means that the car ends up also being lower cost. Manual transmissions are fairly simple in their design. You've got your 5 gears inside, you've got forks and synchros that engage those gears, single clutch assembly that attaches to the engine, and that's pretty much it. So it's a pretty low cost transmission, which also translates to the cost of the car being low, and that way you get to benefit from that. But then also, when it comes to maintenance and repair, your manual transmissions are very easy to maintain, and most manual transmissions are very durable. Only thing that tends to go out and need replacement after tens of thousands of kilometers is your clutch. But once you change your clutch, then you're going to be using the same transmission for decades and decades. So they're also very low cost to maintain. Now let's talk about some of the drawbacks that you get with a manual transmission car like this Suzuki Swift Sport, and that's obviously because of the consistent driver input that is required. That can also be looked at as a drawback. You have to think about which gear you're in all the time. Are you in first gear? Are you in third gear? And you have to go down to second gear as you're coming to slow down the car. All that can be looked at and seen as something that is quite involving and can get annoying. Obviously, if you're in heavy traffic situations, you keep going 1, the car starts off, you get it in 2, then you have to slow down again, get back in 1, and obviously your leg is constantly going in and out on the clutch, and that can be tiring and inconveniencing. So that's a drawback that we can look at there. So those are the only drawbacks that you get from manual transmissions. So now let's go and have a look at an automatic transmission in the BMW 135i. So with automatics, the automatic transmission uses a complex system of gears and clutches and sensors to automatically change the gears inside your car. So basically the driver input is just to put the car in D, and then the rest is taken over by the computer that is controlled by the car itself. So obviously the benefit of using an automatic transmission is that you don't have to think about what gear the car is in. You just have to focus on your throttle input and also putting the car to a stop by stepping on your brakes. You never have to think about where the gears are when it comes to an automatic transmission. Another thing that you get is smooth gear changes. Obviously when it comes to cars with a manual transmission, you can get smooth gear changes, but it's not going to be as smooth as you get in an automatic transmission. So that's just another benefit, being able to sit back and have your car change gears smoothly, going up and down, and you never get a point where you go into the wrong gear and maybe your car starts to vibrate and shake. So you just get to sit back and have smooth gear changes all the way. So when it comes to automatic transmissions, unfortunately they are less fuel efficient as compared to a CVT transmission or a manual transmission, and that's basically because of their design. One, the transmission itself is heavier because of all the complex complex components that go into the building of the transmission itself. Automatic transmissions have multiple clutches that are built into them. They've got a lot more fluid that goes into them, and also the gear sets are a lot more than you will get in a manual transmission and in a CVT transmission. So they generally are going to be less fuel efficient than their CVT and their manual counterparts. And then also, because of that complexity in an automatic transmission, it means that they're going to be more expensive to produce, which can add up to the cost of the final cost of the car that you're buying. If you get an automatic, then you can be paying more because of complex design of an automatic transmission. Then when it comes to maintenance and reliability, automatic transmissions can vary. A lot of automatic transmissions are very reliable and don't really give you many issues, but there is a bit of a cost on maintenance. Automatic transmissions do require you to service the transmission by replacing the automatic transmission fluid. That way you keep your transmission, running more efficiently, and it can last much longer. So there is that cost as compared to manual transmissions, which can run on pretty much the same fluid throughout their lifetime and not have any issues. You might get some oil leaks from some of the seals on a manual transmission, but that's pretty much it. You replace the seals, maybe top up the fluid that was lost, and then you just have them going. In an automatic transmission, there's also a dedicated computer that controls the transmission. And for example, in Mercedes-Benz 7G Tronic, those transmissions are very well known to have the computer box for the transmission go bad, and then you end up having to make a very expensive replacement of the computer box. So that's just another thing that can go bad on an automatic transmission, making them pretty expensive to maintain as compared to a manual transmission. And then obviously, because of the complexity of the transmission, if it gets to a point where you have to do some repairs, maybe replace some clutches, there are multiple clutches that have to be replaced on the inside. Sometimes there are solenoids that go bad, the solenoids that control the fluid flow into the transmission. Those can go bad, and it's very costly to repair an automatic transmission as compared to a manual transmission. So that's pretty much everything you need to know about an automatic transmission. Now let's go to our final transmission, which is the CVT transmission. All right, so let's talk about the CVT transmission, which is what you find in something like the Toyota Vanguard. So CVT transmission is a continuously variable transmission, and basically what that means is, unlike the manual transmission, which will have a limited number of gears, like for example that Suzuki Swift Sport has 5 gears, and the BMW that we're in has 6 gears, a CVT has an infinite number of gears. And basically what that means is that there's no gear 1, gear 2, gear 3, gear 4, gear 5 when it comes to a CVT. And I know that on the display here, because with the human mind we're used to seeing that gear 1, gear 2, gear 3, we still get that shown on the display. But when in actual sense, the transmission has an infinite number of gears. So CVTs use belts and pulleys to provide an infinite number of gear ratios. I'll show you with a small video on the screen here so that you can see. It's got basically a belt and 2 pulleys, and those pulleys adjust the size of the belt in between, and that's how your transmission determines what gear ratio it's using to give the drive to your wheels. So what are the benefits of a CVT transmission? Basically, a CVT transmission is very fuel efficient, and that's why you see that it's now popular in a lot of these cars that are used in domestic use for families, for example, or if you're doing taxi services and stuff like that. You generally get a lot of cars with CVT transmissions because they are extremely fuel efficient, way more fuel efficient than a manual transmission, and even more fuel efficient than an automatic transmission. So that's one of the benefits that you get when it comes to a CVT. But then also another benefit that you get with a CVT, because it's got those infinite gear ratios, is that it can deliver power very consistently and also changing gears very smoothly. So an automatic transmission is smooth in the way that it changes gears, but a CVT is even smoother than an automatic transmission. And sometimes I've seen people create problems for themselves because you get into a car that has a CVT and you think that clutches are slipping because you're used to driving, for example, an automatic transmission where you can feel the car going from gear 1 to gear 2 and then gear 3, while a CVT transmission just feels like it's one straight line just going as you're driving. And that has caused some people to think that there's a problem with the transmission, transmission, then they go and get ATF and put into the CVT transmission, and then completely end up destroying their transmission. So a CVT transmission has very smooth gear changes, and you just need to be careful that you're not mistaking that for a problem with an automatic transmission, when in fact you are in a car that has a CVT transmission. Another benefit of a CVT transmission is its compact design, because it just has that belt and two pulleys on the side. Very compact in its design, also making it very lightweight. That adds to the fuel efficiency, but also it can be placed inside the engine and still leave room for other accessories that you can put, and it can be put in very small cars that are designed to be extra compact. But also, just like a manual transmission, it's not very complex in its design. You've got the belt and those pulleys on the side. Yes, it does have a computer box, but it's still a low cost transmission to build, unlike an automatic transmission. So that's another benefit that you get. So most cars that will come with a CVT transmission will also translate into a lower cost, because that transmission doesn't cost a lot to produce. So then let's look at some of the drawbacks when it comes to CVTs. CVTs have a very low towing capacity, so you don't want to do any heavy duty work when it comes to a car that has a CVT transmission. They are not designed to carry a lot of weight, so the moment that you start using your car with a CVT transmission to start carrying bags of cement, you're carrying blocks, you're carrying heavy stuff inside the car, then you're putting that CVT transmission at risk of getting damaged. So if you want a car that you're going to be towing and carrying heavy stuff with, you might want to go for an automatic transmission, or even better, a manual transmission, because those are the best designed to do heavy lifting. Then also, when it comes to CVT transmissions, you need to do constant oil changes. So these transmissions are very sensitive to running with oil that is old and dirty. You need to make sure that it's running with a fresh, clean supply of oil. So CVT transmissions do require that extra maintenance, and the CVT oil is pretty costly. So then that translates into more expensive maintenance as far as the transmission goes. So you're saving a lot of money on fuel and you're getting a smooth transmission, but it does cost you when it comes to maintaining the transmission fluid of the car. Then also another drawback is that they are very they're not very responsive. So if you're looking at a car that you want to have fun in, having a sporty driving experience, then don't go for a CVT, because CVTs are very dull in their nature, if I can put it like that, not very responsive. So that's pretty much it when it comes to CVT transmissions. Okay, so there you have it, guys. If you're looking for maximum engagement with your car and some good fuel efficiency, then you should go for a manual transmission. Also, a manual transmission allows you to tow heavier capacity, so if you're going to be doing any heavy lifting, then you should go for a manual transmission. But if you want that comfortable drive where you don't have to think about going through gears, then you can go for an automatic transmission. Auto transmissions also do well when it comes to carrying heavy loads. But if you want to maximize fuel efficiency, have a smooth driving experience, then obviously go for a car that has a CVT transmission. That way you get the best fuel consumption and also have that nice, smooth, relaxed drive. But also just remember that CVTs are very sensitive. You know that Nissan has a very bad reputation with CVTs going bad, especially their line of Xtronic CVTs. Those ones are really problematic. So when it comes to CVTs, they are very sensitive. Remember to get on top of your oil changes, and also just make sure that you're not towing anything heavy with a CVT transmission. That way your transmission is going to last very long. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and obviously if you guys have any problems with any type of transmission, whether you need a clutch replaced on a manual transmission, whether you've got a problem with a CVT or an automatic, you can bring your car down here to Z Gear HQ, which is Tunex Automotive, and we'll have that sorted out for you guys. Hope you guys like this video. Leave a like if you did, share this video with someone who would find it useful, and obviously leave a comment below letting me know which other videos you guys want me to do. Until the next one, guys, take care and drive safe.